Like it's me, I'm the man. Like all I feel is rage and frustration. Makes me interested in committing acts of violence. My first instinctual desire was to rip his rib cage open.
Imagine having to struggle through this, have to fight those temptations every single day. Coach Greg, and today a serious video of which we're going to try to not get the video demonetized. As you watch this video and you listen to this video, please listen carefully. This video is not to put anyone down nor to make fun of them. It's to enlighten people of the true dangers of using performance-enhancing drugs. As I listened, I realized he's actually very accurate. As I listened, I thought, oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, he's right. Oh, I have felt that way too now. If I ran that high of doses, who knows, I may have had a similar experience. And remember, his doses, at least the ones he says he's using, are not all that high. I've used far greater. And Larry Wheels has used far greater than me. Tren is gnarly stuff. And for someone who isn't self-aware or introspective, absolutely it creates toxic, intrusive thoughts which folks will act on. Stuff about ruined my marriage. Great interview, and again, I applaud the authenticity. And so what we're talking about is an interview between Zach Tallender and Mike Israetel. Mike Israetel, the most famous social media fitness influencer in the world. You're saying, no, he isn't. Yes, he is. Guy got 90 million views in the last month. And so he may not have as many followers as other individuals, but more people are tuning into his channel right now than anybody else. In this interview, Mike is going to explain the worst side effects of performance-enhancing drugs. You're probably thinking it's the back knee, the acne, perhaps the gynecomastia, perhaps the liver damage or the kidney toxicity. Or maybe it's the increased blood pressure. Or maybe it's the fact that you're losing your hair or that it's taking years off of your life. Well, it could have been those, but it's not it. It's the effects on your brain. Remember, the brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25, but even if it's fully developed, even if you're as smart as Mike Israetel, it can wreak havoc on both your brain and your body. And so when I play this video, I don't want to see a bunch of hate comments. Don't want to see you trying to put Mike Israetel down because remember, he's being very vulnerable, open, honest, and transparent in explaining the horrendous side effects of using steroids. And so, yeah, I get it. Somebody already wrote, living rent-free in your head. I don't care. What I do care about is that you watch this video, learn from it, and that you don't copy him.
I'm stopping for some time competing in bodybuilding. Yeah.
Why is that?
Bodybuilding it doesn't pay bills. It costs money. Right now, the work environment is so good. The career situation is so good. And the opportunities are so good that if I continue to perseverate in bodybuilding competition at the level at which I'm interested in competing it would just detract so much from the work situation. And we have a really cool thing going at RP.
And so thank God that he's doing so good with his career that he's decided to take a break. At least he's taking a break from competitive bodybuilding. Remember, we want to say that he's retired, but he's saying, I'm going to come back in a couple of years.
The next biggest reason would be the demands physically. So one being, your nutrition, and I imagine lack of good sleep. I've heard that guys who are cutting for bodybuilding struggle with sleep, but also the doses of anabolics that you'd have to take in prep.
The sleep's not a problem because if you take a sufficient amount of pharmaceutical grade growth hormone and you don't diet so extremely that you're starving to death all the time, you can still get really good sleep. I do.
Mm-hmm. And so Zach is asking, are you quitting bodybuilding because you're sick of pinning all the time, of using those performance enhancing drugs? Is it negatively affecting your sleep? Mike's saying, look, I use so much growth hormone and I don't really diet all that strictly that I get plenty of sleep. Remember, Mike has said he only uses 100 milligrams of Tren a week. Not a day, but a week. Only used 175 milligrams the final week. I'm going to tell you that this is minuscule in compared to most cycles. Many guys, for example, Larry Wheels, use 700 milligrams a week for 3 months straight. And so listen to the side effects that Mike experiences while taking minimal doses and imagine how much worse it could be.
The main thing for me are the side effects, mostly the psychological ones.
And so the main problems is what's happening to the mind. The reduction in intelligence.
Specifically, reduction in fluid intelligence, and a increase in two other qualities that come to mind. One is anxiety, and the other one is aggression.
The crippling anxiety and the aggression. Imagine having to struggle through this, have to fight those temptations every single day. And not just every day, every hour, perhaps every minute.
What does that look like? Like, how does that manifest?
In a few ways. One is it's difficult to hold a complex idea in your head all at once. You can see parts of it, but not the whole thing. Another one is you tend to lose your train of thought a little bit more.
And so he can't hold a thought in his head. He loses his train of thoughts. He can't focus.
Not because you have an attention span problem. You're actually quite focused, but because a lot of times you get into some intrusive thoughts, and those prevent much cognitive stuff from happening, and you end up thinking about other things that are not productive use of your time.
And so what happens is you get stuck in your own head. Intrusive thoughts, they begin to develop. You can't get them out of your mind. You want to do certain things that you wish you didn't want to do. And so you have to fight those urges. And so many people, they can't fight the urges. Perhaps for some people, it's violence. They want to commit a crime. They want to, in fact, to injure other people, or perhaps they even want to injure themselves. That can result in people taking out that aggression on perhaps a female, their partner, or on other people. You've all seen guys go to the bar looking for fights. Certain people taking steroids, they can't help themselves. They can't stop. Off steroids, they might have no problem. They're kinder, gentler, but on steroids with 10 or 20 times the testosterone of that of a normal man, they can't fight the aggression. And for other people, it might manifest in perverse sexual activity. Strange sexual thoughts that you wish you didn't have.
Another one is similar to the holding things in your head at the same time, is your ability to have a good short-term memory, enough to say, for example, if I tell you, okay, so there's 3 things going on in my life right now, and by the time I get done talking about thing 1, I know thing 2, but I forgot what thing 3 was. Or I know that I was talking about thing 1 and that was a great conversation, but now I'm like, so, okay, like, what was I saying?
And so the effects of short-term memory, he can't think. He has 3 things he wants to say. He says thing 1, and already he's forgotten the second and third items. Consider it for those of you who've ever smoked weed, perhaps done an edible, and you're having a conversation and you continue to get lost. You're thinking, I had it. What was I talking about? And you don't know where it went. Imagine having that all the time. Imagine it. Remember, in Canada, marijuana, edibles, all legal. And so no one smoking weed, taking edibles in Canada is breaking the law. Never break the law. Only use these items with the consent from your own doctor. Please check your country's rules and regulations before doing anything described in any video.
Creativity is pretty well misunderstood by a lot of people. Creativity is not something that typically tends to occur actively, in my experience. It's like a self-prompting GPT or Claude 3.5.
He lacks the ability to be creative. And so many people are thinking, no, just sit down and plan out being creative for an hour. Journal it in every morning. It doesn't work like that. Being creative, it just happens out of the blue. When I'm going for a bike ride outside and so on, my brain, it just starts to think. Thinks about certain things I could do. Perhaps a video idea pops in my head. I'm working things out. Perhaps it happens in my sleep. For me, I sleep vivid, lucid dreams all the time. I suffer from narcolepsy. And so when I fall asleep, I'm always in REM sleep. It's a strange form of narcolepsy, and so I'm dreaming all the time. But for Mike, when he's on steroids, the creativity, it stops. Nothing new pops into his head.
Bubble thoughts, they don't come in nearly as much with good ideas.
Whoa.
They come in either less, so you're honestly just not thinking as much, or they come in with, very often, they're running more on the script of how it would feel to be 10 to 20 times more male than you currently are. Because if you take 10 to 20 times the serum androgen concentration you're supposed to have and exist like that, then you're going to have a lot of thoughts that are extremely hypermasculine.
And so when he does have thoughts, they're altered. They're thoughts that are created from a man with 10 or 20 times that level of testosterone than you should have. And so what do you think happens? The thoughts that happen are not the thoughts that you want to have.
One of those is dominance hierarchy thinking.
One of the thoughts that occurs is dominance hierarchy thinking. He's thinking, I am the alpha. I'm better than everyone and they need to know it. So if someone writes a comment, perhaps on your post and says, I don't like you, Coach Greg's living in your head, or you're that bald guy, we don't like your hair, you're fat, you have a GH gut, you name it, people are going to assault you every single day on every single post. And you're reading those comments and thinking, I own you. I will destroy you.
For example, oh, that one Instagram comment, like, that guy has no idea how much better I am at everything that I've ever done than the thing he does best in this world.
Turk!
That guy. What a
Turk!
That guy. And you just perseverate on like some guy. You don't even know his real name.
And so that guy who's living in Bangladesh, you don't know who he is. You're thinking, book that guy and cook him and I'm going to fuck him up. You're thinking these things, but that's not you. That's you on steroids and or tren, perhaps halo. And so once you go off those drugs, you then realize, wait a minute, who cares? Dudes from Bangladesh. I'm never even going to visit Bangladesh. I can't even point it out on a map. Why do I care what that person's thinking? I should care about what perhaps my family's thinking, my friends are thinking, my significant other's thinking, perhaps my wife. Why do I care about that guy? That guy is irrelevant to my life, but yet it bothers you.
You feel wronged by things that people tell you. You have this exaggerated sense of self-righteousness, kind of like how dare they attitude, like it's me, I'm the man.
And so think of it, you're brushing your teeth and you're thinking, I want to beat this guy up. You don't know this guy, you've never met this guy, you're never even going to encounter this guy, but you're thinking, I want to fuck this guy up. And so you want to be the man and you want to resort to violence. These are horrendous things to think about every single day. Most people, they want peace. That's why when men look to find a girlfriend, they're wanting someone who brings them peace, not someone who accuses them of this, accuses them of that, brings in so much chaos into the world. They want someone that perhaps greets them at the door, gives them a hug and kiss, says, how was your day, sweetie? Makes you feel calm. The exact opposite of how you felt all day. Perhaps you're working a tough job, you're struggling, you don't like your life. The one thing you do want to come home to is peace. And if you're on steroids, you're never at peace. Never when you're at work, when you're with your wife, when you're laying in bed, when you're working out with that shake weight, never at peace. And so what do people then resort to? Recreational drugs. And so there's a slippery slope. You get into bodybuilding, you start dieting, you're on steroids, and before you know it, your life's a mess.
If TRT is bringing your serum testosterone and your free testosterone, all of that up to normal or maybe slightly above normal, I imagine those intrusive thoughts, the aggression isn't there as much. At what point, like specifically, where do you feel it? Like what drugs specifically do you think where that's happened?
This happens to both males and females. And you're thinking, well, it doesn't happen with HRT. Listen, when you're on HRT, do not think it gives you an advantage over other people. And I'm not talking about just in the gym. I'm talking about intellectually. You're more aggressive. You have more energy. You're able to work harder. And not only that, the hard work, it actually feels better. When I'm racing on a bike, the pain I'm experiencing, I'm actually liking it. I want the pain. I want to prove how hard I can go. But when you're off HRT, or perhaps you have lower levels of testosterone, you just want to sit back. Perhaps you just want to play video games. You don't care about being the best at anything. But when you have higher levels of testosterone, you have more aggression, you have that dominance hierarchy, and so you want to prove yourself. And so many people on HRT, they're not even guys going to the gym, they're businessmen. They're perhaps those guys trying to be millionaires or even billionaires.
With tren, you do have a sex drive, but it's a bit different than normal sex drive. It's more perverse.
And so depending on the steroids, some are worse than others. They all can affect you, but some are worse than others. My experience with steroids, remember, I've used a ton of them, coached thousands of athletes. Those that are more androgenic, they cause the worst side effects. And so, for example, tren and halotestin, very androgenic. They can build up and create more anxiety, more aggression. You just don't feel the same.
Like my personal, and I've heard this from lots of people, my personal proclivities towards fetishes skyrockets on tren.
Wow.
Yeah, whereas like a lot of testosterone will get you real horny, but it's more of a normal horny times 10 versus like a subversive horny.
And so on tests, it just makes them more horny, but that's normal. wants to have perhaps sexy time more often than last time. Perhaps if you're not on test, you may need harder than last time. You know what that's for. It's for the downstairs. But when he's on tren, the thoughts is a little bit different.
Now, tren's just straight up more powerful.
And so I'm telling you, I'm talking to some guys, they're taking tren, and off of tren, they're faithful to their girlfriends. They're normal. They're on tren, they want to cheat every single day. And they want to do weird shit. Nothing normal satisfies them anymore. It changes your mind. Remember Derek from More Plates, More Dates in an interview with Will Tennyson was describing how tren turns some guys gay. They're regular guys, they were straight, then on tren, I'm thinking about being a switch hitter. And so although it never happened to me, I can't speak for everybody else. And so before you take tren or any steroid, please be careful.
For this last show that I did last week, I took Halotestin, floxymesterone, and Halo makes me interested in committing acts of violence.
Listen, he's not kidding. All you're saying, oh, he's just trying to do this for views. He's just trying to exaggerate. I don't believe it. Speak for yourself. I've seen the comments and have people seen me reach out in DMs. Oh, speak for yourself, Mike. Who is this guy? Acting like this actually happens. Maybe to him, but no one else. It happens to a lot of people. Halo makes him want to commit acts of violence. He was taking 5 milligrams. I don't know anyone who only takes 5 milligrams. Perhaps females. When I started taking Halo, I start perhaps at 3, maybe even 4 weeks out. I'll start at 10 milligrams to begin with. That's my starting dose. I quickly up it to 20 milligrams and then 30. And when I was competing in powerlifting on competition day, I was taking 50 milligrams of Halo. I wanted to run through a wall. Whatever weight you put on that bar, I felt I could lift it. What's the world record? Put it on, I'm lifting it. Even if I wasn't close to it, I felt I could do it. Felt like I could rip anyone's head off. You feel it. The aggression, it's real. I was taking 10 times Mike's dose. Competing in powerlifting.
Not any kind of violence. Violence with my hands to other people.
Mike wasn't talking about any kind of violence. He wasn't talking about punching a hole in the wall or perhaps running through a wall. Not like the Incredible Hulk, but more so using his hands to tear people apart and even animals.
Could you imagine something like that for jiu-jitsu or MMA?
I don't have to imagine it. I've done it. Yeah.
And so he doesn't have to imagine it. He's done it. This is on 5 milligrams. Imagine if he was being coached and he was taking 30 milligrams, 50 milligrams. If he's imagining ripping people and animals apart with his bare hands, perhaps ripping their jaws apart or clawing through the rib cage, what would he feel like on 50? And remember, I know guys who took 50 every single day. 50 milligrams of Halo per day leading up to a competition. They have no energy, they're sub 5% body fat, and it's a living nightmare. When I say how hard it is to get shredded, I don't think you guys understand. Perhaps some people do, but they don't truly understand. Even Mike Israetel, he doesn't get it. His last competition, he lost because he didn't have a 10. But remember, I felt he was at close to 6% body fat. Imagine he was at 4. Imagine if he had died for 4 more weeks. Imagine if he had upped the dose from 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 50 milligrams. Imagine if he had upped his dose from 100 milligrams of tren a week to 100 milligrams of tren a day. Common, very common dose. And you hearing what's going through his mind? Are you seeing what he said no to? The guy hung up his posing trunks. He says, it's not worth it. I have a career. I have a channel. I have the #1 fitness app in the world. What more do I have to prove? I don't need a pro card. Guy's got 90 million views in a month. Why would he compete in bodybuilding with all these intrusive thoughts? With that dominance hierarchy, with the acts of violence in his mind, why would he submit his body to all of this? Makes no sense for a smart and educated man. I would think he'd say, that's enough. I'm hanging up the posing trunks. I'm never going to compete again. I'm going to make video after video talking to people about what I've gone through so that other people will not copy me.
I passed a dude's guard. And, there's lots of jiu-jitsu. After you pass someone's guard, there's lots of things to do. Side control, back takes, all this other thing. And my first instinctual desire was to rip his rib cage open.
And so please be careful when you're grappling, in particular against Mike Israetel, in particular when he's dying for competition.
There's all kinds of stuff in that movie, actually, that there's dialogue of how it feels to be the Hulk. He's like, I feel like exposed nerve. And that's not wrong. He's very highly
Jesus.
irritable. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Everything's a problem.
He's not wrong. I'm going to have to agree. When I did Halo and Tren in particular, these two drugs are the only two that I felt it actually changed me. I didn't feel the same, but I was cognizant of this fact. I was thinking, wait a minute, I'm feeling this way, but I'm on those drugs and it's not normal. And so I recognized that. And so when I got angry or upset or felt emotion about certain things, I was thinking, just sit there and don't react. This is not a real, true human emotion. I shouldn't be feeling this way. And so you just bury it deep inside and don't let it out. And that is what Mike is explaining. And so those of you are thinking, oh, just do Tren. You didn't have to work out. Look at Toji. You take Tren, you party, you sniff creatine, you drink alcohol, and you have an amazing physique. Are you hearing about the side effects? Even Toji described those side effects.
And I do hop on, what should I take?
I saw a video of you actually, and you said you've done most of the drugs in the book, but Tren, you said Tren fucked you up bad more than any drug you've taken. I hopped on 80 milligrams of Tren about a month, 2 months ago. Holy fuck, did Tren fuck me up bad. Least pleasant substance I've ever put in my body. I needed to crawl out of my skin. It's like I wanted to rip it off. I was angry, anxious. I was blocking people on my phone. I couldn't sleep. It was a nightmare. I don't know. You said you ran up to 700 Tren, right?
I've done up to 700 Tren a week for about like 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah.
And you're alive today. You didn't want to fucking dirk your shit. I can't believe it,
Can't
dude.
say the same about the people around me during that time, but
Yeah.
I was a maniac. I mean, all the reasons you suggested, and just critical paranoia, you know?
Yeah, oh,
everyone's
it's
out
bad.
to get me. Everyone's talking about me. You're super irritable, all the reasons you mentioned. And I've tried every substance under the
And so many of people are thinking, oh, these guys are just exaggerating. It doesn't actually happen. Guys are not explaining this. They don't dare. They want to talk about the good stuff. I built so much muscle. Look at my veins. Look at my muscles. I literally had a friend of mine call me up at 2 a.m. He was saying, hey, the police are watching me. What am I going to do? I'm like, well, let's say they are. Why would they be watching you? I don't know. They just are. And I'm thinking, dude, just go back to bed, get some sleep. But he's so paranoid, he doesn't know what to think, doesn't know what to do. I had another guy, I was coaching him. He said, what was your biggest cycle ever? I said, you shouldn't be doing that cycle. It's way too much. He says, I'm doing it. So I give him the cycle and I warn him, don't copy this. It was a lot. He then copies that cycle, and lo and behold, I find out later, he said, you know what? I doubled everything you said to do. He doubled it. He didn't care. He was already addicted to the gains, and yeah, the guy won his show. He looked incredible. Guy was a novice competitor. It was his first competition, but he won the overall. This same guy is calling me up at 4 a.m. He can't sleep. He's got transomnia. He's sleeping 1 hour a night. I can't give you my Zopiclones. They're for myself, but I can't sleep. I'm like, dude, it's dangerous. You have to go to the doctor. You can't sleep. You need to go to the doctor. I'm not your doctor. And so this guy, ended up giving me trouble. No longer living around here. And so trust me, these side effects are real. And it doesn't just happen at the highest doses. Even on my own cycles, I couldn't sleep. Oftentimes I was sleeping 1 to 3 hours a night. Was given several different prescription sleeping pills, including amitriptyline, Zopiclone, as I just suggested, and Seroquel. Seroquel is given to guys with schizophrenia to help them to calm down. Was taking all these sleeping pills just to get a good night's sleep. After a while, guess what happens? Those doses go up. The amitriptyline that was 10 milligrams soon becomes 20, soon becomes 25, 50, and then 100. The Seroquel's at 25, it's 50, and then that's 100. And those 5 milligram Zopiclones, they ain't doing it. It's then 7.5. Then you're doing 2 and 3 of those a night. And so please be careful.
But the ideas are like, man, it'd be cool to like fight a dog with just your hands and kill it. Like, what?
And so rather than having amazing ideas, hey, I got this great video to do. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that. I can't wait to surprise my girlfriend with this surprise. It's going to be great. You're thinking, I want to rip those dogs apart. It's not good. Mike is being very vulnerable right now. Most people would not admit what they're thinking. And so he has the intelligence, he's able to explain it in such a way so that you understand it, so that you can relate. Many bodybuilders, they're going to write me in the DMs, they're going to say, that Mike, he's an asshole. Speak for yourself. I never felt any of those things. Yeah, you're the same guy that's being a dick. You're being an asshole to everyone around you. You don't even realize it. You don't even understand what you've been doing.
For many months of really hardcore steroid cycles, I would spend about 5 or 10 minutes lying in bed before getting up because I didn't want to get up.
And so think of it, for months, every single day, while on prep, while taking steroids, he'd lay in bed for 10 minutes every single morning, afraid to get up. He was scared to go about his day, but yet he kept doing it. And so that is the addictive nature of steroids. Perhaps you're not physically addictive, but mentally. What about the mental component? The fact that it's changing your personality.
Is this sport? Is this way of living? Is it worthwhile in the first place?
And so Zach points out, is bodybuilding even worth it? If you have to go through all of these changes mentally, physically, the years taken off your life, how is it worth it? And I think the reason that people think it's worth it is because they're simply oblivious to these things. No one is talking about this other than Dr. Mike. And aside from guys like me talking about what Mike's going through, guys like Zach Tallender who are pointing out the obvious, you shouldn't be using steroids, most people just don't care. But they should care. And so I'm going to read the comments. It's going to be, Greg is an asshole. Let grown men do what grown men are going to do. Mike is living rent-free in your head. Yeah, you guys can all say this, but you don't understand the purpose of my videos. I'm trying to stop you from using steroids. And so whether you think, oh, he doesn't intend to stop you from using steroids, he's trying to sell products. He's just trying to get views. Whatever the reason, does it even matter? Does it matter what the guy from Bangladesh is telling me? Oh, Coach Greg, you only care about the money. You don't care about helping people. Does it matter? I don't care what the guy from Bangladesh is saying. And all the guys from Bangladesh out there, you can write and hate me in the comments. I'm never going to Bangladesh. Whatever the reason, here is the goal. Don't use steroids. And so let's see, is what Mike's saying actually working? Dr. Mike has single-handedly put me off anabolics for life. Thanks to the multiple times he's talked about it, it's the mental part of it that scares me the most. I did consider it, but someone with pre-existing issues like me, I'm not going to handle it well. And so in the end, what is the purpose of me doing this video? I want more people like this guy to reconsider using steroids. And if you watch the hundreds and thousands of messages I get, the DMs and so on, thanks, Coach Greg. Because of you, I'm not using steroids. Now, perhaps years ago, I was talking about my cycles. I was saying I take this and take that, and I was educating people, giving the good, the bad, the ugly. I didn't feel I was glorifying it, but I did get the comments. You're promoting steroids. You're a bad person. And so now that I'm trying to unpromote steroids or get people not to do them, you're still a bad person. And so guess what? No matter what I do, y'all gonna hate me, so I'm gonna do what I want. And what I want to do right now is make multiple videos about Mike Israetel to tell people don't use steroids. And if you hate me for it, so be it. I don't care. Remember, I'm not on abusive doses of steroids. I'm on HRT, 140 milligrams a week. My testosterone levels are within the normal range. You can believe me, you can not believe me, whatever. Now, if I were on abusive doses, perhaps I'd have intrusive thoughts. I hate those people. I hate that guy from Bangladesh. But because I'm at normal levels of testosterone, I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm at peace. I don't have intrusive thoughts. I don't want to hurt people. I feel fine. I don't have crippling anxiety, and I'm happy to go about my day. When I wake up in the morning, I don't lay down for 10 minutes thinking about, oh my God, I have to go through this day. I think I can't wait to get through this day. When I was on steroids, I was thinking, I can't wait to come off. Once I used tren, especially at high doses, made me feel horrible. I would say 4 more weeks and I get to go off. Now, sure, I loved the visual. I liked the way my body looked, but I hated with the way my body felt.
Your brain will get tricked over and over into assuming that all of the things you're thinking are the things you're supposed to be thinking.
And so think of it, when you're on steroids, the steroids are changing the brain to think that you're right. You're over and over again, you're seeing the same thing and you're thinking, no, I should be feeling this way because those people should be treating me different. You're not thinking, wait a minute, everyone treats people like this and then it's just a normal occurrence and just go about your day. Who cares? You're not thinking that. You're thinking, no, they wronged me on purpose. They're out to get me. And so, for example, Mike Israetel on steroids watching a Coach Greg video might think, Greg's going to war with me. Coach Greg hates me. There's no way he actually cares about my health. And remember, we have in fact had private chats. I'm not going to tell you how those chats end, but do you really think he thinks that I care about him? Do you think he believes me in the slightest? Not going to post the chats, but do you think that he thinks that I care? Most of you watching these videos, you don't think that I care, even though I do, and I can say that I do, but you don't believe me. Oh, he's just an asshole. I'm not. I'm actually a normal human being. Because you're on steroids, because your brain is thinking different, and you're thinking, there's no way that this Coach Greg isn't a psychopath. There's no way he's a normal human being. He's got to be a narcissist. There's no way he could be normal. He could never have a normal conversation with someone. He always is screaming, shouting. There's no way he would have a normal voice. That person doesn't exist. You've convinced yourself that you're right, that there's no way that Coach Greg could ever care about anyone. That's what you believe. If you talk to my friends, they'd all tell you that you're wrong, but yet you wouldn't believe them.
I'll sit there for 15, 30 seconds, a minute straight until I can materialize something civilized to come out of my mouth.
And so think of it. He's so self-aware that he realizes that whatever thought he has when somebody explains him something is probably wrong. Wait a minute, my initial reaction, it's being altered by the fact that I'm on steroids. And so I need to sit there, think about it, calm down, and then think, wait a minute, they don't just hate me. That's actually normal. And so because he's self-aware, he's able to put it off. But many people, they're not as smart as Dr. Mike. They're not as intelligent. They're not as introspective. They don't think about these things. And so they simply react. They lash out. And so it's important when something's happening and you're triggered, give it some time. Allow yourself to think about that, give it some time, and address it later.
I consider something that's very important to me is if and when I'm on higher doses of drugs, I consider it my duty to never lose my civility, never threaten people physically, never get into physical altercations, never raise my voice.
You're on steroids. It's your duty to be normal. You can't just scream and shout and fight and attack people. You have to be calm. You have to understand that it's the drugs that causing you to think these things. These things are not what you would normally think. And so please act accordingly. Realize you're under the influence. Now, it may not be alcohol. It may not be a recreational drug, but you're still under the influence. He should not have said I nor you. Not everyone has such drastic cognitive side effects. Those sides are crazy, and I do not know of anyone where it was so crazy. And so essentially, you have so many people saying, no, this isn't going to happen. And so people are going to put it off, and they're going to continue to view steroids. I'm telling you that it happens. Many people not going to admit it. Many people don't notice it, but trust me, it's happening. Rather uncommon to hear a person with that level of reach be open about the gear. Like it's a huge legal liability for starters to speak openly about. But it's curious how Dr. Mike's reasons to take gear was to make also the meatheads to listen to good advice about training and nutrition. The ones who only listen to the biggest muscles, and now talking repeatedly about the risks and downsides of it, he's a pretty extreme university professor. Just yesterday, YouTube gave me a 9-year-old video when he still looked like a pretty young and soft powerlifter, giving a little lecture working with Juggernaut's training system. Probably around the time he was doing a lot of the professor work and only starting to envision RP. It's also interesting how these days you can almost confidently tell when a video with him was filmed in higher dosages. It starts to sound a lot more like what he described. Argumentative, self-righteous, irritable, trying to suppress it. And he truly seems like a super nice guy outside that. Not many people have the ability to sound as well-spoken during cycles. Like even then, he can convey training science information and have a complex discussion about it with other doctors of sports science or similar. And so remember that original video that Coach Greg and Dr. Mike did? We had a debate. Remember how irritated, annoyed, and displeased he was with me?
Well, if you've lost 10% of your strength, you're training hard enough that you can probably go home versus what you
suggest. Well, not go home, right? Go to another exercise.
Yeah, sure. But like what you're saying,
that's not the same thing, Greg.
We're just having a talk. We're talking about training. What does he think? What do I think? What am I experiencing with my clients? What are you experiencing with his clients? But yet he was out to get me. He hated me. He made it his mission. His goal was try to make me look stupid. He couldn't just have a discussion. And do you not think that the reason for that was his use of performance-enhancing drugs? Do you really think that the real Mike Israetel, Natty Mike, would have acted in that way? And so he literally posted on Reddit, my goal was to get Coach Greg. I wanted to destroy him. I wanted to make fun of this guy. He didn't want to have a debate. His mission was to destroy me. Remember that dominance hierarchy he was describing, that violence? Imagine what he was feeling on the inside from using performance-enhancing drugs. Had he been natty, perhaps just on HRT, he would have had a civilized discussion. But because he had to prove himself, because he was on performance-enhancing drugs, the interview, it came off a lot different. Please, if you're watching this video, think again about using or abusing performance-enhancing drugs. And please, in the comments section, can we keep it civil and not talk about nonsense? Tell us about your experiences with steroids. The good, the bad, and don't forget the ugly. Be honest with yourself. Let us read what you've truly experienced. Rather than abusing steroids, can we not do things the natural way? Have you in fact used GO2 Max and or Turk Builder? The gains are real. Once you try it, you will be convinced. And if you in fact are on steroids, get off of them, take Turk Builder and GO2 Max and see how many gains you can keep. Of course, you're not going to keep them all, but you will in fact feel better. More energy, more muscle, better pumps. What do you have to lose? Well, I'm not allowed to announce this, but there's literally a money-back guarantee on Turk Builder. And so if you do in fact think it's snake oil, be my guest. Buy it, try it, and if you don't like it, you get your money back. Does that sound like a guy selling snake oil? Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you in fact liked it. Watch one of those 2 bloops. And of course, you can get the training books, the Circle Diet book, How to Lose Weight, Keep It Off for the Rest of your life, as well as the Anabolic cookbooks. They have PDF hard copies. Also, the Harder Than Last Time clothing line, coaching plans by me and my team. We do it all. Get to the website. You have no money. Get the free diet and training program. Join the 300,000 newsletter subscribers, and until next time, I am out.